A former classmate I once shared the same desk with came for a job interview at the company she had dreamed of working for years later. She didn't recognize me and spoke with an arrogant, condescending attitude. What she didn't realize was that the person sitting across from her, me, was now in a managerial position at that company and the one who would decide whether she got the job. Before we continue, don't forget to write in the comments which country you're from and how old you are. Enjoy listening. The snow fell in heavy, silent sheets outside the frosted windows of the Moscow office, cloaking the city in a hush that felt almost suffocating. Inside, the sterile hum of fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above the polished mahogany desk where I, Daria Volkov, sat, my fingers tapping a restless rhythm on the armrest of my chair. It was a habit I'd carried since my school days in St. Petersburg, a nervous tic that surfaced when my thoughts tangled in knots too tight to unravel. Today, the rhythm felt different, charged with a strange alchemy of anticipation, unease, and something darker, like the shadow of a grudge I hadn't realized I still carried. The resume in front of me was pristine, its edges sharp, its text a testament to relentless ambition. Natalia Petrova. The name struck me like a shard of ice, piercing through the years, dragging me back to a past I'd thought I'd buried. We were teenagers then, bound together by the cruel alphabet of seating charts in a cramped, drafty classroom in St. Petersburg. Petrova and Volkov, side by side at a creaky wooden desk, our worlds colliding in ways neither of us could have predicted. Natalia was the sun in that room, her auburn hair catching the dim light, her laughter a melody that drew every eye, her confidence a force that seemed to bend the world to her will. She could charm a teacher into forgiving a late assignment with a single smile or rally a crowd with a toss of her head. I was the shadow, quiet, reserved Daria, always hunched over my notebooks, my love for numbers and systems dismissed as boring by her quick, cutting tongue. "Dasha, you think too much," she'd say, her laugh sharp and bright, slicing through me in a way I never admitted, not even to myself. We were an odd pair, forced together by proximity but separated by everything else. Her charisma, my caution, her ambition, my doubts, her ease, my struggle. I'd admired her, in my own silent way, but there was always a distance, a wall built from her effortless confidence and my gnawing insecurity. She never mocked me outright. Natalia was too clever for that, but her casual dismissals left scars, small and invisible, that ached when I let myself remember. A rolled eye when I stumbled through a presentation, a teasing remark about my little dreams of working with data. They were pinpricks, but they added up. Back then, I'd told myself it didn't matter. I was just Dasha, the girl who faded into the background, while she was destined for greatness. Now, years later, her name stared back at me from the resume, a ghost from that classroom. She was applying for a senior analyst position at Zvezda Analytics, the company where I'd clawed my way through late nights, endless reports, and thankless tasks to become a department head. The irony was almost too perfect, a twist of fate that felt like a cosmic jest. The girl who'd once laughed at my dreams was walking into my world, unaware that I held the power to shape hers. I glanced at the clock on my desk, its hands ticking toward her interview time. 10 minutes. My stomach churned, a mix of nerves and something sharper, anger, perhaps, or anticipation. Would she recognize me? Would I want her to? And what would it mean if she didn't? The intercom crackled, the receptionist's voice cutting through my thoughts. Ms. Petrova is here for her interview, Ms. Volkov. Send her in, I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. I straightened in my chair, smoothing the lapel of my blazer, forcing myself into the role of the composed executive. But my heart pounded, a drumbeat of memory and unresolved hurt. The door swung open, and there she was. Natalia Petrova, older but unmistakable. Her auburn hair was pulled into a sleek, professional bun, her tailored suit sharp and expensive, exuding a confidence that filled the room like a physical presence. Her heels clicked assertively on the hardwood floor as she strode in, her eyes scanning the space with a practiced, almost predatory precision. They passed over me without a flicker of recognition, as if I were just another faceless figure in her path to success. The realization stung, but it also sharpened my focus, grounding me in the moment. Good afternoon, she said, her voice smooth and commanding, like a violin played by a master. I'm Natalia Petrova. It's a pleasure to meet you. I stood, extending a hand, my heart racing as I searched her face for any sign of memory. Daria Volkov, I said, my tone even, my eyes locked on hers. Nothing. Not a pause, not a blink, not a trace of recognition. She shook my hand firmly, her smile polite but distant, the kind you give to someone you've already sized up and found wanting. The slight curl of her lips, the faint tilt of her head. It was the same Natalia, her arrogance dressed up in a designer suit, her charm a weapon she wielded without thought. Please, sit, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. I settled back into my own, my expression a mask of professionalism, but inside, memories surged like a river breaking through ice. I saw her at 16, laughing as I fumbled through a math presentation, her eyes rolling when I tried to explain the elegance of equations. I heard her voice, light but cutting, dismissing my dreams as small, my thoughts as excessive. She hadn't changed, not really. The years had polished her, sharpened her edges, but the core was the same. Natalia Petrova, the girl who believed the world owed her its spotlight. Tell me about yourself, Ms. Petrova, I said, leaning back, my voice calm but probing. I wanted to hear her story, not just the polished resume version, but the truth beneath it. I wanted to know who she was now, and whether the girl I'd known was still there, hiding behind the suit and the smile. She launched into her pitch, her words flowing like a well-rehearsed symphony. She spoke of her degrees from top universities, Lomonosov in Moscow, then a master's in London, her internships at global firms, her vision for transforming Zvezda Analytics into something even greater. Her voice was confident, her gestures precise, but there was an edge to her tone, a subtle condescension that grated against my nerves. It was as if she were doing me a favor by being here, as if her presence alone was a gift to the company. I've always known I'd end up at a place like this, she said, leaning forward slightly, her eyes glinting with certainty. It's where I belong. I nodded, my face unreadable, but inside, the spark of anger I'd felt earlier flared hotter. Where I belong. The words echoed, sharp and presumptuous. Did she think we were beneath her? Did she think I was? I scribbled a note on her resume, more to steady my hand than to record anything meaningful. Interesting, I said, my voice low. Why Zvezda? What makes this company your dream? Her smile tightened, just for a fraction of a second, as if the question irritated her. It's the best, isn't it? She said, her tone almost challenging. The leader in analytics, the kind of place that attracts top talent. I've worked hard to be here, and I know I can elevate this department. Elevate. The word landed like a slap, its arrogance slicing through the air. I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my expression neutral, my pen scratching another note. Did she think we needed her to save us? Did she think I, the woman sitting across from her, was just another cog in a machine she could steer? The thought was intoxicating, not because it was true, but because it gave me power. The power to decide her fate, to approve or reject her dream with a single stroke of a pen. Let's talk about your experience, I said, shifting gears, my voice calm but deliberate. Tell me about a time you faced failure. How did you handle it? Her smile faltered, just for a moment, and I caught it, the first crack in her polished facade. Failure? She repeated, as if the word were a foreign language, something she'd never had to pronounce before. She recovered quickly, her voice regaining its smooth cadence. I don't dwell on it. I learn, I adapt, I move forward. For example, during my master's program in London, my team botched a major project presentation. The data was incomplete. The delivery was chaotic. I took charge, restructured our approach, worked through the night to refine the analysis, and we delivered a revised version that earned top marks. It was a textbook answer, polished and safe, but it felt hollow, like a script she'd memorized to deflect scrutiny. I pressed further, my voice steady but sharp. And what did you learn about yourself in that moment? Not the team, not the project. You. She hesitated, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if she sensed a trap. Her fingers twitched in her lap, a small betrayal of her composure. That I'm resilient, she said finally, her tone firm but less certain than before. That I don't let setbacks define me. I push through, no matter the cost. I nodded, jotting another note. Resilient. The word felt like a half-truth, a convenient mask for something deeper. Was she resilient? Or was she just good at hiding her cracks, at painting over the flaws with charm and bravado? I remembered a moment from our final year of school, a memory that had lingered like a bruise, tender to the touch. Natalia had been chosen to represent our class at a regional debate competition, her ambition a force of nature, her preparation relentless. But on the day of the event, she'd forgotten a key part of her argument, a critical statistic that could have unraveled her entire case. I'd stayed up late the night before, helping her refine her points, my own homework forgotten as I scribbled notes for her. She'd barely thanked me, her focus already on the stage, on the applause she knew she'd earn. When she won, she took the spotlight alone, her smile radiant, while I sat in the audience, invisible as always. That moment had defined us, her in the light, me in the shadows. Now, the roles were reversed. I was the one with power, the one who could decide whether she stepped into the spotlight or stumbled in the dark. The thought was intoxicating, a dark thrill that made my pulse quicken. I could reject her application with a single email, let her taste the dismissal she'd so casually dealt to others. I could make her feel the sting of being overlooked, the way I had all those years ago. But another part of me, a quieter, more uncertain part, wondered if I was being fair. Was I judging the woman in front of me, or the girl she'd been? And what did it say about me if I let that girl dictate my decision? The interview continued, her answers growing more guarded as my questions grew sharper. I asked about her leadership style, her approach to conflict, her vision for the future. Each response was polished, but I could sense her unease, like a deer catching the scent of a predator. She didn't know why, but she felt the shift in the room, the weight of my scrutiny. I was no longer just an interviewer. I was something else, something she couldn't quite place. As we neared the end, I decided to test her one last time. "Ms. Petrova," I said, closing her file with a deliberate snap that echoed in the quiet room. "One final question. Do you ever think about your school days, the people you knew back then?" She blinked, caught off guard, her composure slipping like a mask. "My school days?" She laughed lightly, but it sounded forced, brittle, like glass about to crack. "Honestly, I don't have time for nostalgia. I was focused on getting out, building something bigger. Those years, they feel like another lifetime." "Why do you ask?" I smiled, leaning forward, my voice low and deliberate, each word chosen with care. "Just curious. Sometimes the past has a way of catching up, doesn't it?" Her brow furrowed, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of unease in her eyes, a shadow of doubt that hadn't been there before. She didn't recognize me, but she sensed something, maybe the weight of my words, or the way I was looking at her, as if I could see through the polished exterior to the girl beneath. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, charged with an unspoken tension that seemed to press against the walls. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her portfolio, a small, unconscious gesture that betrayed her nerves. "Well," she said, recovering with a tight smile, "the past is the past. I'm here for the future." I nodded, dismissing her with a polite, "We'll be in touch." As she left, her heels clicking down the hall, the sound fading into the hum of the office, I felt a pang of something I couldn't name. Regret? Triumph? Or maybe just the ache of a shared history she'd forgotten, a history that still lived in me, raw and unresolved. I sat there for a long time, staring at her resume, her photo staring back at me with that same confident smile. She was qualified, more than qualified. Her skills would be an asset to Zvezda, her analyses sharp, her ideas innovative. But every time I thought about signing her offer letter, I saw her dismissive smile, heard her condescending tone, felt the sting of her teenage laughter echoing across the years. That night, I sat in my apartment, the city lights glittering through the window like a constellation of forgotten promises. Natalia's resume lay on my coffee table, her photo a silent challenge, daring me to decide. I poured myself a glass of vodka, the burn grounding me as I wrestled with my thoughts. What did I want? To punish her for the past? To make her feel the rejection she'd so casually dealt to me? To prove I was better than the girl she'd overlooked, the girl she'd told to dream bigger? Or to give her a chance to show she'd changed, to prove that the years had softened her edges, taught her humility? I thought about our last day of school, a moment I hadn't let myself revisit in years. She'd been accepted to a prestigious university in Moscow, her future bright and certain, her path paved with opportunities I could only dream of. I'd stayed in St. Petersburg, working odd jobs, tutoring, waitressing, anything to afford night classes at a local institute. That day, as we stood outside the school, the June sun warm on our faces, she'd hugged me goodbye, a rare moment of warmth that caught me off guard. "Don't stay small, Dasha," she'd said, her voice light, but her eyes serious. I'd laughed it off, but the words had burrowed deep, a seed of doubt and determination that fueled my drive to succeed. They'd pushed me to work harder, to climb higher, to become the woman sitting in this office today, the woman with the power to decide her fate. In a strange way, I owed her for that. But did that mean I owed her a job? I leaned back, swirling the vodka in my glass, the liquid catching the light like liquid fire. The power I held was real, tangible, a weight in my hands. I could reject her with a single email, a few cold words that would send her back to the world she'd fought so hard to escape. I could make her feel the sting of being overlooked, the way I had all those years ago. But power wasn't enough. I didn't just want to decide her fate. I wanted her to see me, to understand who I'd become. Not just the woman behind the desk, but the girl she'd dismissed, the one who'd carried her words like a weight all these years. The next morning, I called her back for a second interview. I didn't know what I was looking for. Closure, maybe, or a glimpse of the person she'd become. When she arrived, she was different, her confidence tempered by a wariness that hadn't been there before. She sat across from me, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes searching mine for clues, as if she sensed the ground shifting beneath her. This time, I didn't hide who I was. I slid an old class photo across the desk, the two of us at that creaky wooden desk, her laughing, me looking down at my notes, lost in my own world. The photo was worn at the edges, a relic I'd kept for reasons I couldn't fully explain. "Do you remember this?" I asked quietly, my voice steady but heavy with meaning, each word a step into the past. Her eyes widened, her breath catching as she stared at the photo, her fingers hovering over it as if it might burn her. "Daria Volkov," she whispered, her voice trembling, barely audible, as if the realization was too much to hold. You're her?" I nodded, letting the silence stretch between us, heavy and unbroken, like the snow outside. The same Daria you shared a desk with, I said, my tone neutral but my eyes unyielding. The one you said thought too much. Her face flushed, her hands twisting in her lap as she struggled for words, her composure crumbling like a house of cards. I didn't recognize you, she stammered, her voice small, almost childlike. You've changed. You're different. I didn't know. So have you, I said, my voice low, my gaze steady, but not entirely. She looked down at the photo, her fingers brushing the edge as if trying to anchor herself to something real. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice breaking. I was young, Daria. I was careless. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't even realize. Careless, I repeated, the word hanging in the air like a verdict, sharp and heavy. And yesterday, when you walked in here, assuming you were above this place, above me, her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability, a crack in the armor she'd worn so proudly, a glimpse of the person beneath the suit and the smile. I didn't know it was you, she said, her voice raw, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I've been fighting so hard to prove myself, to get here. I thought I had to be that way to survive, to be taken seriously. I didn't mean to come across as arrogant. I wanted this so badly. Her words hung between us, raw and unpolished, and for a moment, I saw the girl from the photo, not the one laughing, but the one who'd stayed up late preparing for debates, who'd pushed herself to be perfect because anything less was failure. I saw the weight she carried, the pressure to always be more, to never falter. I wanted to believe her, to believe that the years had taught her something about humility, about the cost of her careless words. But doubt gnawed at me, a whisper in the back of my mind. People don't change that easily, do they? Was this an act, a performance to save her chance at the job, or was she finally showing her true self? I need to know, I said, my voice low, each word deliberate. Who you are now. Not the girl from school, not the resume, not the suit. Who is Natalia Petrova, really? She swallowed hard, her hands trembling slightly, her eyes locked on the photo as if it held the answer. I'm someone who's made mistakes, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Someone who's learned the hard way that confidence can hide fear. I've worked for years to get here, Daria, but it's never enough. There's always another hurdle, another person to impress, another version of myself I have to become. I didn't mean to hurt you back then. I was young, selfish, blind to how my words landed. And yesterday, I was trying to be what I thought this place needed. But I'm tired of pretending. I just want to do the work, to be part of something bigger than myself. Her words were raw, unpolished, and for the first time, I saw her. Not the golden girl, not the polished professional, but a woman carrying the weight of her choices, her flaws, her fears. I wanted to believe her, but the scars of the past were still there, faint but present, and I couldn't ignore them. I leaned back, studying her, searching for the truth in her eyes. Was this sincerity, or was it desperation? Was she the girl who'd laughed at me, or the woman who was trying to be better? I had a decision to make, and it felt heavier than anything I'd faced in my career. Hire her, and risk working with someone who might still carry that arrogance, who might remind me of the past every day, stirring up old wounds. Reject her, and satisfy the part of me that still stung from her teenage slights, the part that wanted to prove I was no longer the invisible girl in the back of the classroom. Or find a third way, one that neither of us expected, one that might give us both a chance to move forward. "I'm going to give you a chance," I said finally, my voice steady but firm, each word measured. "Not because of our history, but because you're qualified. Your skills are undeniable, Natalia, and Zvezda could benefit from them. But your attitude, your assumption that you're above this place, above the people here, that stops now. I'm hiring you, but I'm watching. I see you, Natalia, not just the resume, not just the suit. I see the girl who laughed at me, and I see the woman who's trying to be more. Don't make me regret this." Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, Daria. I won't let you down. I promise." As she left, her heels clicking softly down the hall, I felt a weight lift, but questions lingered like shadows in the corners of the room. Had I made the right choice? Was she sincere, or was this just another performance, a mask she'd wear until the next opportunity came along? Only time would tell, and time was a harsh judge. Weeks later, Natalia started at Zvezda. She was professional, driven, her analyses sharp and insightful, her ideas pushing the team forward in ways I hadn't anticipated. She threw herself into her work, staying late, asking questions, seeking feedback with a humility that surprised me. But there were moments, fleeting and subtle, where I caught glimpses of the old Natalia, the quick flash of impatience when a colleague missed a deadline, the faint edge in her voice when she thought she wasn't being heard. Each time, she'd catch herself, take a breath, soften her tone, as if she was fighting a battle within, trying to rewrite who she'd been. We didn't speak of the past again, but it was always there, a silent current running beneath our interactions. In meetings, our eyes would meet across the room, and there was an unspoken understanding, a shared history that neither of us could erase. One evening, as we reviewed a project late in the office, the city lights glittering outside, she paused, her pen hovering over a spreadsheet. "Daria," she said quietly, not looking up, her voice soft but steady. "I meant what I said. I'm trying to be better, for what it's worth. I'm sorry for back then, for all of it." I looked at her, searching for the girl who'd laughed at me, the girl who'd told me to dream bigger, but all I saw was a woman carrying the weight of her choices, her flaws, her regrets. "The past is the past," I said, echoing her words from the interview, my voice softer than I'd intended. "But the future, that's up to you, Natalia." She nodded, a small smile breaking through, fragile but real, and we went back to work, the hum of the office filling the silence. The past never truly leaves us, I realized. It shapes us, haunts us, scars us, but it also gives us a chance to rewrite the story, to choose who we become. For Natalia and me, that story was still unfolding, one uncertain step at a time, a delicate dance between memory and possibility. Months passed, and Natalia settled into her role, her presence a quiet force in the department. She wasn't perfect, none of us were, but she was trying, and that effort, however imperfect, was enough to keep me from regretting my decision. There were days when I caught myself watching her, wondering who she'd become in a year, in 5, in 10. Would she rise to the top, as she'd always believed she would? Or would the weight of her past, her pride, pull her back? And what about me? Had I let go of the girl who'd sat in her shadow, or was she still there, waiting for a reason to resurface? One winter evening, as the snow fell outside, blanketing the city in silence once more, I found myself alone in the office, Natalia's latest report open on my desk. It was brilliant, innovative, meticulous, the kind of work that could redefine our department's approach. At the bottom, she'd left a handwritten note, a rarity in our digital world. "Thank you for the chance, Daria. I won't forget it." I stared at the note, the words blurring as the weight of the past and the possibility of the future settled over me. The desk we'd shared was long gone, but its shadow lingered, a reminder that some stories never truly end. They just change, evolve, rewrite themselves in ways we can't predict. What would you have done in Daria's place? Would you have given Natalia the job, or let the past decide her fate? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that keep you guessing until the very end.